The blade hung on the wall like a relic from another age, catching the sterile white light of the training facility in ways that plasma rifles and neural disruptors never could. Chen stood in front of a locker, running her fingers along the Katana's scabbard, feeling the smooth lacquer beneath her touch. 3 years at the Galactic Combat Institute, and still, every single day, someone had something to say about it. Hey, look everyone. The human brought her letter open again. Kira didn't need to turn around to know who it was. Vex, the KRYNN warrior who never missed an opportunity to remind everyone that humans were the newest, weakest species to join the Galactic Coalition. His voice carried that distinctive clicking undertone that old KRYNN had, like gravel being crushed underwater. She took a breath, slow and measured. Her grandfather had taught her that. Breathe first, react second. Never the other way around. It's called a Katana, Vex, Kira said, still not turning around. But I wouldn't expect you to know the difference between a weapon and a letter opener. That would require reading. Someone laughed. Probably Jax, the only other human in her class. Good old Jax, always willing to enjoy a burn even when he knew it would make things worse. Vex's footsteps approached, heavy and deliberate. The KRYNN stood nearly 8 feet tall, with forearms that ended in razor-sharp talons and skin that looked like burnished copper armor. They were bred for war, engineered for combat across 1,000 generations. Every instructor at the Institute called them natural warriors. Kira finally turned around, the Katana now secured at her hip. She had to tilt her head back to meet Vex's 6 black eyes, but she didn't step back. Never step back. That was another lesson from Grandfather. You know what I find funny about humans? Vex said, all 4 arms crossing over his massive chest. You cling to these primitive weapons like they mean something, like they make you special. Meanwhile, the rest of us evolved past swinging sharpened metal around like cave dwellers. Evolved? Kira raised an eyebrow. Is that what you call it when your species needed genetic modification just to survive basic combat training? The training hall went quiet. Even the instructors, watching from their observation deck above, seemed to stop moving. Kira could feel 30 pairs of eyes, representing a dozen different species, all locked on her and Vex. Vex's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of rage in KRYNN body language. What did you just say? Human? You heard me, Kira said, keeping her voice level. Your species needed augmentation. Mine didn't. We evolved naturally. So tell me again who the cave dwellers are. For a moment, Kira thought Vex might actually attack her right there. His talons flexed, his breathing quickened, and his 6 eyes narrowed to slits. Then Commander Roth's voice echoed through the hall, amplified and sharp. Cadet Vex, Cadet Chen, my office. Now. The walk to Commander Roth's office felt like a funeral march. Kira kept her eyes forward, the Katana's weight familiar and comforting at her side. Jax caught up with her in the hallway, his expression somewhere between impressed and terrified. That was either the bravest or the stupidest thing I've ever seen you do, he whispered. Probably both, Kira admitted. Commander Roth was a Zephyrin, a species known for their tactical brilliance and complete lack of patience for nonsense. She stood behind her desk, her crystalline skin refracting light in sharp angles, making her look like she was carved from diamond. Her 3 eyes studied both cadets as they entered. Sit, she commanded. They sat today. Roth walked around her desk, her movement precise and calculated. Cadet Vex, this is the 14th incident this semester involving you and Cadet Chen. Would you care to explain why you seem unable to share a training facility with another sentient being? Vex's mandibles clicked softly. Commander, the human shows disrespect to proper combat protocols. She insists on using outdated weaponry that has no place in modern warfare. Outdated weaponry, Roth repeated, turning to Kira. Is that what you'd call your Katana, Cadet Chen? Kira met the commander's gaze. With respect, Commander, I call it effective weaponry. The Galactic Combat Institute's charter allows cadets to specialize in any weapon system they choose, provided they demonstrate proficiency. I've demonstrated proficiency. You've demonstrated proficiency against training dummies and simulation programs, Vex interjected, not against actual opponents. Because you refused to spar with me, Kira shot back. Every time I challenge you, you claim it would be beneath your skill level to fight someone with a primitive weapon. Ruff held up one hand, silencing them both. She returned to her desk, pulling up a holographic display. Data scrolled across the air, scores, and statistics in combat evaluations. Kira could see her own name highlighted in blue, Vex in red. Cadet Chen ranks third in her class, Ruff said. Cadet Vex ranks first. Both of you have exemplary records in every category except one, interpersonal cooperation. This stops today. Vex leaned forward. Commander, I don't understand. Then let me make it simple, Ruff said, her voice dropping to something cold and dangerous. Tomorrow, during advanced combat training, you two will face each other in a formal sparring match. Full contact, no restrictions. If Cadet Chen wins, Cadet Vex, you will publicly apologize for your behavior and cease all harassment. If Cadet Vex wins, Cadet Chen, you will remove that Katana from this facility and select a standard weapon system. Kira felt her heart slam against her ribs. This was it. The moment she'd been waiting for, training for, dreaming about for 3 years. A real chance to prove that her grandfather's teachings, that Earth's ancient warrior traditions, meant something in this galaxy of laser weapons and neural disruptors. I accept, she said immediately. Vex looked at her, then at Commander Ruff, then back at her. His mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. This is a waste of time, but I accept as well. I'll try not to hurt her too badly, Commander. Dismiss, Ruff said. Outside the office, Kira's hands were shaking. Not from fear, from anticipation. From 3 years of mockery and dismissal and condescension finally coming to a head. Jax was waiting for her, along with Sarah, a Vortak girl who'd become one of Kira's few friends at the Institute. Vortak looked almost human, except for the bioluminescent patterns that traced across their skin like living tattoos. Well, Sarah asked, her patterns flickering anxious purple. We fight tomorrow, Kira said. Oh, hell yes. Jax pumped his fist. I've got money on this. Don't let me down. You bet on me. Kira asked. Of course I bet on you. You're human. We're the stubborn ones, remember? The species that looked at the galaxy and said, we're going to join your elite military academy even though we just figured out faster than light travel last decade. Sarah touched Kira's shoulder, her patterns shifting to concerned yellow. Are you sure about this? Vex is dangerous. He has put 3 cadets in the medical bay this year alone. I'm sure, Kira said, and she was. This wasn't just about her anymore. This was about every human who'd ever been dismissed as primitive, every cadet who'd been told their traditions didn't matter, every warrior who'd been mocked for honoring their past. That night, Kira didn't sleep. She sat in her quarters, the katana across her lap, and practiced the breathing techniques grandfather had taught her. In through the nose, hold for 4, out through the mouth, hold for 4. Over and over until the world narrowed to just breath and blade. Her grandfather had given her this katana before she left Earth. He'd been a master swordsman, one of the last practitioners of an ancient school that dated back centuries. When she told him she was joining the Galactic Combat Institute, he'd simply nodded and presented her with the blade. They'll tell you this is obsolete, he'd said. They'll say plasma and energy weapons make steel irrelevant. But they don't understand. Kira, the weapon isn't what makes the warrior. The warrior is what makes the weapon. She ran her fingers along the blade, feeling the subtle grain in the folded steel. 1,500 layers, forged and reforged until the metal was stronger than modern alloys. It had taken a mastersmith 3 months to create. A knock at her door broke her meditation. It's open, she called. Jax entered, carrying 2 cups of something that steamed. Couldn't sleep either. Not really. He handed her a cup. Coffee, real earth coffee, which cost a fortune this far from home. Where'd you get this? I have my sources, Jax said, settling onto her desk chair. Listen, I wanted to talk to you about tomorrow. I'm not backing out. I know. I just wanted to say, no matter what happens, you've already proven something. You've lasted 3 years here when half the coalition thought humans would wash out in 3 months. You've earned your place. Kira smiled. But Vex is really, really good. Kira. Like, scary good. His reaction time is 3 times faster than yours. He's got 4 arms, each one stronger than both of yours combined, and has been training since he could walk. I know all that. And you're still going through with it. I'm still going through with it. Jack shook his head, but he was smiling. You humans are absolutely insane. You know that. It's been mentioned. They drank their coffee in comfortable silence, watching through the window as alien ships moved through the station's traffic lanes, each one representing a different civilization, a different way of life. Somewhere out there was Earth, a blue marble that most of the galaxy still considered a backwater planet full of primitive apes who'd barely figured out how to leave their own solar system. Tomorrow, Kira thought, she'd give them something new to think about. Get some rest, Jax finally said, standing. You're going to need it. After he left, Kira returned to her meditation. But this time, she also practiced her movements. Draw, cut, return. 3 moves. That's all she'd need. 3 moves to change everything. The next morning, the training hall was packed. Word had spread fast. It wasn't every day a human cadet challenged a KRYNN warrior to a formal duel. Most of the spectators were probably there to watch her lose. That was fine. She'd had an audience before. Kira stood in the center of the combat ring, the Katana still sheathed at her side. Across from her, Vex performed elaborate stretches, showing off his flexibility, his strength, his forearms moving in complex patterns that made him look like some kind of deadly dance. Commander Roth stepped between them. The rules are simple. This is full contact, no holds barred. The match ends when one combatant yields, is incapacitated, or steps out of the ring. Lethal techniques are prohibited. Understood? Understood, Kira said. Vex just nodded, his 6 eyes fixed on her with predatory focus. Weapons check, Roth commanded. Vex activated his plasma gauntlets, each one glowing with barely contained energy, top-of-the-line military hardware, capable of burning through starship hull plating. The crowd murmured appreciatively. Kira drew her katana, the blade singing as it left the scabbard. The sound echoed through the hall, clear and pure. Some people laughed. Others whispered. All of them watched. Roth looked at both weapons, then at both fighters. Begin! The world slowed down. Vex moved first, exactly as Kira knew he would. KRYNN always attacked aggressively, relying on their natural advantages to overwhelm opponents before they could establish defense. 3 of his arms came forward, plasma gauntlets blazing, while his 4th arm reached wide, trying to flank her. Kira didn't move. Not yet. Grandfather's voice echoed in her mind. The blade is an extension of your will. Your will is an extension of your breath. Control your breath. Control everything. Vex plasma gauntlets came within inches of her face, close enough that she could feel the heat, smell the ozone. The crowd gasped. Some looked away, expecting blood. Move 1. Kira stepped. Not backward, not to the side, forward and slightly left, into the gap between Vex's 2nd and 3rd arm. It was a space most fighters would never see, let alone exploit. Too small, too dangerous, requiring perfect timing and absolute confidence. She found it without thinking. The Katana came up in a rising cut, not toward Vex, but toward his lead arm. The blade, moving faster than most eyes could track, sliced through the energy emitter on his plasma gauntlet. Not the arm itself. Never the arm. Just the technology. Sparks exploded. Vex's first weapon died, the plasma field collapsing into nothing. The KRYNN warrior stumbled, surprise breaking his attack pattern. That moment of hesitation, that single heartbeat of confusion, was all Kira needed. Move 2. She spun, the Katana moving in a perfect horizontal arc. This time, she targeted his 2nd arm, the one reaching wide for a flanking grab. Again, not the limb. The emitter, the blade connected with surgical precision, severing power conduits and disrupting energy flow. Another gauntlet died. The crowd wasn't laughing anymore. Vex roared, a sound that combined fury and disbelief. He still had 2 functioning weapons, 2 plasma gauntlets that could end the fight in seconds. He thrust forward with both, abandoning technique for raw power. Kira ducked under the attack, feeling superheated air pass over her head. She could smell burning hair, realize it was hers. 2. Close. Almost too close. But not quite. Move 3. This was the moment. The one her grandfather had made her practice 10,000 times. The technique that masters spent lifetimes perfecting. The cut that separated pretenders from true warriors. She rose from her crouch, the katana held in a reverse grip, and executed a draw cut. Not the traditional draw where you pull the blade from its scabbard. This was different. This was a blade returning to where it began, completing a circle, finding the path that connected all things. The katana moved through space like water flowing downhill, following the most natural path. It passed between Vex's guard, between his remaining weapons, between his defenses that had been honed across decades of training. The blade touched his throat. Not cutting, not drawing blood, just touching. The kiss of steel against copper skin. A promise of what could happen. What would have happened if this were a real battle? Vex froze. The training hall went absolutely silent. Kira held a position, the katana steady despite her racing heart, despite the adrenaline screaming through her veins. Yield, she said quietly. For a moment, Vex didn't move. His 6 eyes stared at her, wide with something that looked like shock. His mandibles clicked rapidly, processing what had just happened. Then, slowly, he raised all 4 arms in surrender. The hall exploded with noise. Cadets shouting, some cheering, others arguing. Everyone tried to understand what they just witnessed. 3 moves. The match had lasted 3 moves. Commander Ross stepped into the ring, her crystalline face unreadable. Winner, Cadet Chen. Kira lowered her blade, stepping back and returning it to its scabbard in one smooth motion. Her hands were shaking now, reaction setting in, but she kept her face calm. Grandfather would have been proud. Vex stood there, staring at his disabled gauntlets, then at Kira, then back at his gauntlets. How? He finally asked. How did you move that fast? I didn't, Kira said. You moved first, remember? I just moved better. That's impossible. My reaction time is 3 times faster than any human. Maybe that's a problem, Kira said, and she wasn't being sarcastic now. She was genuinely trying to explain. You react. I anticipated. There's a difference. Vex shook his head, clearly struggling with the concept. Around them, the crowd continued to buzz with excitement and confusion. Kira spotted Jax jumping up and down, probably calculating his winnings. Sayre's bioluminescent patterns were flashing brilliant gold, the vortex sign of joy. Commander Roth raised her hand, silencing the whole. Cadet Vex, per our agreement, you have something to say. The KRYNN warrior looked at the commander, then at Kira. For a long moment, his pride warred with his honor. Kira could see it in the way his mandibles clicked, the way his talons flexed and relaxed. Finally, he spoke. Cadet Chen, I apologize for my behavior. I dismissed your weapon and your training without understanding either. That was wrong. The words sounded like they physically hurt him to say, but he said them clearly, loud enough for everyone to hear. Kira nodded. Apology accepted. But I have a question, Vex continued. Will you teach me? That surprised her. Teach you what? Whatever that was. That anticipation you mentioned. That way of seeing attacks before they happen. I've trained my entire life and I've never encountered anything like it. Kira thought about that. About grandfather's teachings. About the years of meditation and practice. About the philosophy that turned combat into art. It's not something I can teach in a day, Vex. It took me years to learn, and I'm still learning. Then teach me over years, Vex said, if you're willing. She studied the massive alien warrior, seeing him differently now, not as an antagonist, but as someone who genuinely wanted to improve, to grow beyond his limitations. All right, she said, we'll start tomorrow, but you have to promise something. What? No more mocking people for their weapons. No more assuming that different means inferior. Vex's mandibles clicked and what she'd learned was KRYNN laughter. Agreed? That lesson I learned today. The crowd dispersed slowly, cadets breaking into smaller groups to discuss and debate what they'd seen. Kira found herself surrounded by people she'd barely spoken to before, all of them suddenly interested in her training methods, her weapon, her philosophy. It was overwhelming and exhausting and absolutely wonderful. Later, in the locker room, Sarah helped her clean the katana. The blade had a single drop of lubricant on it from Vec's gauntlet, but otherwise, it was perfect. Unchanged. Still the same weapon it had been that morning. You know what the crazy thing is? Sarah said, her pattern shifting to thoughtful blue. Everyone's going to want to train with you now. You're going to have a waiting list. I don't want a waiting list, Kira said. I just wanted respect. Well, you've got it now. That match is going to be talked about for years. The human who beat a KRYNN warrior in 3 moves with an ancient weapon. It sounds like a legend. It sounds embarrassing. Sarah laughed. Get used to it. You're famous now. Jax burst into the locker room, waving a credit chip. I won 500 credits betting on you. I'm buying dinner. Real food, not that synthesized garbage. We're celebrating. Jax, you shouldn't gamble, Kira said, but she was smiling. I didn't gamble. I made an informed investment based on my absolute faith in human stubbornness and your ridiculous skill level. Totally different. They went to one of the station's nicer restaurants, a place that served food from a dozen different worlds. Kira ordered their cuisine, real beef and rice and vegetables that cost a fortune to import but tasted like home. As they ate, Jax kept replaying the match on his datapad, showing her the footage from different angles. Look at this. Right here. The moment Vex realizes what's happening, his eyes go wide, all 6 of them. That's the face of someone whose entire worldview just shattered. Stop it, Kira said, embarrassed. Never. I'm going to watch this every day for the rest of my life. This is the moment humans stopped being the new kids and became the scary ones. Sarah raised her glass. To Kira, who proved that sometimes old ways are the best ways. They clinked glasses, and Kira felt something warm spread through her chest. Not pride, exactly. More like belonging. Like she'd finally found a place in this massive, complicated, beautiful galaxy. Her communicator buzzed. A message from Commander Roth. Report to my office tomorrow at 0800 hours. We need to discuss your future. That sounds ominous, Jack said, reading over her shoulder. Or exciting, Sarah countered. Maybe they want to make you an instructor. I'm still a cadet, Kira pointed out. A cadet who just embarrassed one of the best fighters in the Institute, Jack said. Rules change when you do the impossible. That night, alone in her quarters, Kira held a katana and thought about grandfather. He'd passed away 2 years ago, never seeing her graduate, never knowing if his teachings would matter in a galaxy full of advanced technology and alien warriors. She wished he could have seen today. Wished he could know that his lessons, his patience, his dedication to an ancient art had meaning beyond Earth, that the way of the blade transcended species and star systems. Thank you, she whispered to the empty room. The next morning, Kira reported to Commander Roth's office exactly on time. The commander was reviewing holographic displays when she entered, tactical scenarios playing out in miniature above her desk. Cadet Chen, sit. Kira Saturday. Roth closed the displays and focused her 3 eyes on Kira. Yesterday's match has caused quite a stir. I received communication from several senior officers requesting details about your training methodology. There's talk of incorporating your techniques into the standard curriculum. Kira blinked. I don't understand. The Galactic Coalition military has always prided itself on adaptation. We take the best from every member species and integrate it into our doctrine. Your display yesterday demonstrated combat effectiveness that our analysts didn't predict was possible with pre-industrial weaponry. They want to study it. They want to learn from it. But it's just sword fighting. No, Roth said firmly. It's a completely different approach to combat philosophy. You won that match before the first move was thrown. You won it in your preparation, your anticipation, your understanding of your opponent. Those are skills that apply to any weapon system. She pulled up a new holographic display. I'm offering you a position as a junior combat instructor, effective immediately. You will continue your studies but also teach weekly seminars on pre-engagement strategy and anticipatory combat techniques. Interested? Kira felt dizzy. This was beyond anything she'd imagined. Yes, Commander. Absolutely yes. Good. Your first class is next week. I've already got 27 cadets signed up, including Cadet Vex. Don't disappoint me. Walking out of that office, Kira felt like she was floating. Her communicator immediately started buzzing with congratulatory messages. Jack sending explosive emoji. Says bioluminescent patterns flashing happy gold in a video message. Even cadets she barely knew reaching out to offer respect. But the message that meant the most came from an unexpected source. Vex, looking forward to training. Perhaps you can teach this old warrior new tricks. The next match, I will last at least 4 moves. Kira laughed out loud, right there in the hallway, earning strange looks from passing cadets. She typed back, confident. Good. See you on the training mat. 3 weeks later, Kira stood in front of her first official class. 27 cadets from 15 different species, all watching her with varying degrees of skepticism and interest. Vex sat in the front row, his 4 arms crossed but his expression attentive. Welcome, Kira said, her voice steady. Before we begin, I want to make something clear. I'm not here to teach you sword fighting. I'm here to teach you something my grandfather taught me. How to win a fight before it starts. How to see your opponent's intentions before they act. How to make your weapon, whatever it is, an extension of your will. She drew the katana, holding it up so the light caught the blade. This is steel, folded 1,500 times by Master Smith on Earth. It's primitive by galactic standards. It has no plasma field, no energy matrix, no smart targeting system. But yesterday, it defeated top-of-the-line military hardware. Anyone want to guess why? A Vortac cadet raised their hand. Because you're really skilled. Partially true, but lots of people are skilled. What made the difference? Vex spoke up. Because you understood the weapon. You made it part of yourself. Kira smiled. Exactly. The weapon is just a tool. The warrior is what matters. And being a warrior isn't about strength or speed or reaction time. It's about understanding. About discipline. About seeing the world clearly and acting with purpose. She sheathed the katana. Over the next few months, we're going to explore those concepts. Some of you might find this useful. Some of you might think it's a waste of time. That's fine. But I promise you this. If you genuinely engage with these teachings, you'll become better fighters, better tacticians, better warriors. The class lasted 2 hours. By the end, even the skeptics were asking questions, engaged with the material, seeing combat in ways they hadn't before. As everyone filed out, Vex lingered behind. That was good. You're a natural teacher. Thanks, though I'm pretty sure I was terrified the entire time. Fear is healthy. It means you care about doing well. He hesitated, his mandibles clicking softly. I wanted to say something else. About our match. What about it? You could have hurt me. That third move. If you'd wanted to, you could have cut deep. But you didn't. You showed control. Mercy. That's rare in a warrior, especially one who's been mocked for years. Kira met his 6 eyes. Hurting you wouldn't have proven anything except that I could hurt you. I wanted to prove something else. What? That different doesn't mean inferior. That Earth's traditions have value. That humans belong here just as much as Kelwan or Zephyrins or any other species. Vex nodded slowly. Mission accomplished. You changed a lot of minds yesterday, including mine. After he left, Kira stood alone in the training hall, the weight of the katana familiar at her side. She thought about how far she'd come. A human girl from Earth, carrying an ancient weapon, standing in a military academy orbiting a star she couldn't even see from her home planet. And somehow, impossibly, she'd found her place. That night, Kira wrote a long message to her family. She told them about the match, about the new teaching position, about how grandfather's lessons had shaped not just her life but potentially the combat doctrine of an entire galactic military. She ended the message with something grandfather used to say. The sword cuts, but the warrior chooses where and when and why. That's what separates us from the blade. That's what makes us human. Outside her window, stars wheeled in ancient patterns, indifferent to the small dramas of the beings who navigated between them. But in one training hall, on one station, In one corner of a vast and complicated galaxy, a human girl had taken her first real steps toward changing how billions of beings thought about combat, tradition, and the value of understanding your past. 3 moves. That's all it had taken. 3 moves to prove that sometimes the old ways aren't just valid. Sometimes they're exactly what the future needs.